Him's House, episode 50. My name is Jonathan Stern. I'm joined today by Shalin Shah, CEO of Marius Pharmaceuticals. Marius is focused on developing products for hormonal and metabolic health, especially around testosterone deficiency. We wanted to have Shalin on the show because 2 months ago, during Hims' launch of its testosterone category, Hims also announced a partnership with Marius to roll out their oral testosterone therapy, KYZATREX, starting in 2026. Shalin Shah, welcome to Hims House.
Thanks for having me on, Jonathan. Excited to be here.
I want to start with some background on how this partnership with Hims came about. Can you tell us who approached whom?
So we actually had a mutual friend in that sense that kind of put me and Andrew together some time ago, and obviously we've had a number of discussions since. Look, we launched KYZATREX in a very innovative manner, right? This was a cash-only product. We understood testosterone as a market was really patient-driven at large. And frankly, just a lot of people needed help and guidance. There's just a lot of misunderstanding out there in the marketplace. So, the way that we've done it fits really well with the digital world. And naturally, Hims has a big place over there.
What can you tell us about the experience of actually getting the deal structured? How long did it take? Who'd you meet with to hammer out the details? Was it Andrew or was it someone else on the team? Anything along those lines that you can share would be fascinating.
Yeah, so I think like any B2B deal, you'll have multiple team members involved, and that will progress over time. Again, me and Andrew have a good relationship, so we're able to connect and work things through. But again, it's a team effort. So you get both organizations come together and get things across the line from different categories.
In person or remote? Zoom?
A lot of this, you can do remote, right? As you guys well know, I mean, a lot of things can be handled remote. I mean, we're East Coast based. Obviously, they're on the West Coast, so we try to be as efficient as possible.
Cool. I asked because the Washington Post, I think, wrote a story about the Hims Novo partnership, and we don't have too many details from how that came to be or how it sort of unwound and exploded. But one thing that was interesting is that they did meet in person at least a couple times. I think once in New Jersey they had dinner.
Right.
I'm just curious if y'all met in person or if it was strictly remote. So, can you tell us about what were the primary benefits of partnering with Hims versus any of the other telehealths that also sell TRT? Basically, why Hims?
So if I look at what a company does, not only size, but what they do in terms of education and where they're really going. So we've been selective with our partnerships to date, and we continue to do that. And as you likely saw a couple of days ago, as they kind of continue to talk about their 2026 plans and beyond, there's a real focus on that personalized care, that longevity care, and driving solutions for patients, right? And I think there's a lot of actual depth to that that we like, that Marius likes as and likes to see in our partners. So there's that's a strong driver in why we think they are a good long-term partner, not just the scale of the business. Again, we're also looking at international markets. They are as well, and nothing to announce there. But again, we think we have similar alignment on the category and what's beyond the category as well.
I saw in the press release, at least the press release that Hims released, that it's an exclusive partnership. Is that right? Because I know there's a partnership with Newman in the UK that you guys announced a couple years ago. Is it exclusive, or could you partner with others down the road?
So as we currently stand today, we do have multiple partners in the digital space. Again, we're going to be very selective here in who we potentially partner with, but we are squarely focused on this partnership. So I think we want to, we're going to support it incredibly, and so I think it goes both ways. And I'd probably leave it there.
We don't have to get into this too much, but I did see that Empower currently sells KYZATREX. Are you able to comment on like if that will stop in 2026 once the partnership with him starts?
Right. So we have multiple partners on the or outlets, I should say, rather than partners on the compounding side, right? We've not because these people compound KYZATREX, because you really can't do that, but
Right.
they serve as distribution points. So, there's a handful of folks that we're working with, and mainly servicing in the brick and mortar clinic space, right? There's a huge brick and mortar side of our business. If you think about, whether they're TRT clinics, longevity clinics, concierge, wellness, functional medicine, right? This space is really grown over the years, and we see it continuing to grow. So it will be, there will be availability of KYZATREX, but some of those decisions are going to be, we're going to continue to evaluate our distribution points as we go through into 2026.
Okay. And then anything you can say about length of the partnership with Hims? I didn't see anything about how long you're signed to go for in the press release.
Right. So again, I think we have a very good alignment with the company. So I see this as a long-term play and partnership. We're not doing anything for short-term, flash in the pan style, if you will.
Yep.
So I think that's this KYZATREX is going to continue to be an important product in hormonal care going forward, period. Right. So I see good long-term viability here.
Great. So I think it was September 10th that Hims launched Testosterone, right? And the first thing they launched the testosterone category. First thing they've come out with is compounded enclomiphene. I think they've said they're also planning to launch their own sort of injectable TRT. Can you say more about how KYZATREX will sit alongside those offerings on the Hims platform? Do you anticipate like internal competition between, say, the injectable TRT and the oral KYZATREX? How do you think through that as you're like trying to position your own product strategically on Hims platform?
Right. So I would say this first, right? KYZATREX is a real innovation in the testosterone therapy space, right? You're moving from potential, creams and injections to now an oral capsule, which really is, the progress that most therapeutics try to go through. You don't really see, products go from oral to injectable, right? This is the progression in terms of innovation. And yeah, again, previous oral testosterones didn't work. So this really, we've drawn a line in the sand on where we're able to go here. But look, the market is massive. There are 25 million plus hypogonadal men or low testosterone men in the United States, right? So, and again, to sort of the Hims ethos a little bit too, right? They want multiple options for patients. And I think that makes sense. What works for one is not always going to work for another. And there's different circumstances for such. But I think, we're confident in the medical side of that business. And again, that's why we've partnered with them to and the people that are leading that to drive great patient care. And again, I think KYZATREX has a strong leading role on the platform. And will it be for everybody? No, but it's going to be for a solid amount of people. And I think that creates a win-win.
You guys offer 3 dosages right now, right? It's the 100, 150, and 200 milligram.
Correct. Primarily the 150 and 200 are the main doses.
Got it. Both of those will be available on the Hims platform. Is that correct?
Correct. And again, ultimately it's up to sort of medical to drive, what levels make sense for the patient and the dose.
Okay. Thinking through the possible personalization aspect, there are, of course, GLP-1s. Hims offer sort of in-between doses and says that they're personalizing them because the individual patient potentially needs off-brand dosages given, nausea and anything that the medical doctor goes over with those patients. Are there plans in the future for Hims to be able to offer more customized doses of KYZATREX or something like KYZATREX, basically compound KYZATREX?
Right. So KYZATREX, through our studies and our real world data, is effective in 96% of patients, right? So this is very different than most therapeutics that almost, on average have 50% effective ratios, right? So what we've done through the different dosages is create titration algorithms effectively that serve, I mean, again, you're almost at 100% of the population, right? So you can serve pretty much any patient that needs it, and you have a lot of options there. The other difference I think it's important to note is the side effect profile for KYZATREX is very clean. So this is, we don't have, we don't have any GI issues, right? So the titration based on dose for side effects, we do not see being a driver of, again, titration. It's really where it makes sense from an efficacy perspective for the patients. So long story short, I think what we have from a commercial perspective is going to service majority of people, and more so than worry about different doses, as I think that's when you'll see some of the other modalities come into play. If a patient, again, for whatever reason wants to inject, that's just going to be a different reason than adjusting doses. So long story short, again, KYZATREX is a unique patented product. We don't see it compounded at all, and I think it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's just less need to compound it at customized dosages.
Right.
Let's think about the 4%. Like what is it about those people that they don't respond as well to KYZATREX?
So I would call them we call them non-responders, right? And again, in most therapeutics, that non-responder rate is probably 30-40% plus. Even as something as common as statins or frankly Viagra, they have higher non-responder rates than KYZATREX. So this really is just there's no way to pinpoint on the face of things if a patient is going to absolutely work or not. There's a lot of this goes through the lymphatic system, gets absorbed through that small intestine, and so forth. So it's just somewhere in the pathway that it doesn't sort of work the same, but it's not something very common, like say, oh, hey, if you're a BMI over X, or if you have another XYZ condition, then that will be the determinant. It is very much very unique to an individual genetic makeup.
Yeah. Anything you're able to disclose on what the price of KYZATREX will be on the HIMSS platform, how that compares to today's cash pricing, for instance, via Empower?
Right. So
I've seen some speculation, but I've seen nothing definitive. So
fair. No, nothing to disclose there. Again, in the sort of spirit of the partnership, I'm confident they're going to be quite competitive, and we're all here because there's a large market ahead, right? So I think accessibility. And that's why we've launched KYZATREX as a cash-only product, because typically a pharmaceutical company would go after the payers, the PBMs, but a new innovative product is often blocked. That doesn't make sense to us. So we didn't spend 13, 14 years in R&D and the clinical trials and the FDA approval to have the product blocked. Access is core to our mission, and again, that's why it aligns well with HIMSS.
Great. And you said something about international earlier, but I can't quite remember, because HIMSS, of course, is now available in Germany and the UK and Spain and France and Ireland via the Zava acquisition. Any plans to sell KYZATREX there, or is this just a domestic partnership for now?
So no, nothing to disclose there. Again, I think as we continue to grow, we'll have interesting opportunities to continue to partner.
So confirming it is just the United States?
Currently, we're just in the United States.
Okay. All right. I want to talk about the testosterone market broadly. You've sort of hinted at how big it's becoming, how big it could be. KYZATREX was approved in 2022. Is that right?
Correct.
So it's been on the market for more than 3 years. Tell us about how it's done on the market since then, any challenges that exist sort of within the distribution model for KYZATREX that are resolved by this partnership with HIMSS.
So high level, I'll say it's going quite well, right? Initially when we launched into the market, there's a strong education piece, right? As I mentioned, previous oral testosterones had issues, so you have some myths that existed in the marketplace. We've been very strong with the KOL leadership, right? So when you think about key opinion leaders across universities, large academic systems, or top tier hospital systems, KYZATREX has been used in a lot of these places, whether it's Cleveland Clinic, Sloan Kettering, Baylor, the list goes on. So we've really established the product from that perspective, and then continue to grow in this DTC cash world, right? As I mentioned, TRT clinics, longevity clinics, wellness, and the spectrum is quite wide, right? We have KYZATREX used in clinics that are, franchised in a lot of places and kind of in every neighborhood, if you will. And then I have, some of our top longevity doctors that cost $100,000 a year that also use KYZATREX. So we've really covered a great deal of space there, and continuing to grow. I mean, we're talking, 3, 4, 5x growth, every year for sure.
Wow. TRT, I've read, is a Schedule 3 controlled substance. How does that impact distribution?
It definitely makes it more onerous, right, on prescribers and the logistics system, because you have to follow additional sets of rules. Prescribers need DEA licenses to go ahead and prescribe that. So it definitely makes it more onerous. But ultimately, if you're set up correctly, it's fine. And a lot of the providers that are doing testosterone are used to it. What I will say is this, and I think you're going to see some interesting things over the next year or two, is, testosterone, frankly, should not be a controlled substance. So this happened back in 1990 as a, largely a Olympic outcry. Congress scheduled testosterone, the only hormone that's scheduled, right? Vitamin D hormone, not scheduled. Insulin hormone, not scheduled. Estrogen hormone, not scheduled, right? So this was really picked on in that sense, mainly from a public perception perspective. But the truth is, this is a metabolic hormone that controls, or is involved in processes across the body, whether that's cognitive, cardiovascular health, bone, muscle, your libido, even down to a cellular level. Your mitochondria have, there's a process for testosterone there. So it's a silly notion today where we are, but I do see some changes happening, and we're going to continue to push for them.
Do you know if this is a priority of the current administration, Maha, RFK, McCary? Are they thinking about it?
I think it's absolutely on their radar.
Okay. Most research report, I looked at just a few research reports, so it's hard to say most. Many research reports put the TRT market size in the single-digit billions worldwide. Does that align with what you've seen?
Right. So again, just in the US, you have at least 25 million men that are hypogonadal, right?
Yep.
On the female side, you're probably trending between, solidly 20 million, but you probably have closer to 30, 40 million that also fit into this category. I mean, 1.3 million women enter menopause every year, right? Every single year. And they have a much more reliable drop in hormones than even males do. Right. So we actually announced our female advisory board last week as we continue to progress research in testosterone in females. You would have saw us in the New York Times 2 weeks ago, and Marius obviously disclosed that it's in discussions for our development program for female testosterone. And as far as I know, we're the only one. So I think if you look at that market alone, just male and female here in the US, that is actually a multi-billion-dollar market.
Got it.
Then you go international.
Today or 5 years from now?
I would say 3 years from now. Okay. I wouldn't say 5 years from now. I would say. And then again, you also have to look at what is that market worth when you think about sort of the wraparound services. A lot of the TRT testosterone business is, includes your doctor visit, your labs, et cetera. So this is like a whole ecosystem, like the subscription models that you guys are familiar seeing. So again, we're talking about multi-billion dollars here in the US, and that is actually just drug here in the US. And then I think when you combine international markets, because this is a problem globally, you're in the tens of billions of dollars. I'll give you a comparison if you want. Like think about GLP-1s, right? I mean, think about GLP-1s, right? Obviously, we know a lot of this pegs at a $130 billion, market. Top line, you have incredible competition. There's 62 GLP-1 drugs in phase 2 or later, right? So there's incredible competition pipeline. You have companies fighting over, these assets that you've seen in the news, over the last week or so. And a lot of it is for what is, trying to address this problem of muscle preservation, right? That's really where the space is going. So think about testosterone as it plays a role as an adjunct to a GLP-1. There's a tremendous role there. And actually, we're going to be starting a study as it relates to that as well, KYZATREX into GLP-1 and GLP-1s by themselves, to look at what is that effect on body comp. So I think, as investors, as you mentioned, as investors are thinking about this space, there's no competition. There's no 62 drugs in the pipeline coming after KYZATREX. We are pretty much one of one here. So I think that says a lot about what the potential is.
Is the comment that TRT or something like KYZATREX pairs extremely well with GLP-1s potentially for those?
I think there's a role. There's absolutely a role. Again, we don't have any indication for this, so I'm not suggesting that these are paired two together. But I think there's a role if you look going forward between the two.
Or at minimum, we're doing studies on that right now
Absolutely.
to find out. Okay.
Yeah, let's show the data.
I'll say this is not a show for medical advice. It's also not a show for financial advice. But yeah,
totally
in any case. That's really interesting. I appreciate you sharing that. So launch with Hims happens next year, 2026. What time of year? Can you say?
So we're working on early 26.
Okay, early 26, still a few months away, potentially. What are you working on right now? Like, what are you doing with Hims right now to get KYZATREX live on the Hims platform? Basically, what are the next steps before launch?
Right. So I think the best way to look at this is and not dissimilar than sort of any other launch, right? And as I mentioned, as we were looking at this, you have your different verticals, categories, right? So you're making sure logistics are set, you're looking at marketing plans and so forth. So it's really a comprehensive effort to get things ready across the line.
Okay. I want to close with basically your thoughts on testosterone more broadly. Over the last few years, TRT has become one of the most talked about areas really in all of healthcare. I did a search on Google Trends before this, up and to the right over the last 5 years. In your opinion, like, what's driven this cultural attention, and what is likely to continue to lead it up and to the right in the coming years?
Yeah, so I think up and to the right is going to continue in mass, and you might even see more hockey stick around that, to be honest, because remember, you have a lot of, again, this is largely patient driven too, right? Patients have been frustrated with the traditional care system, not just from the time that it takes to see a specialist, but the sort of answers that you get and the solutions to truly, the problems that they're facing. And again, testosterone just has these misunderstandings historically, which are starting to change. And I think that is definitely for the better, because this is, again, as I said, a metabolic hormone. It's not just sexual health. It's not just muscle building. I think muscle is obviously getting more attention today in a good way, as this is an endocrine organ. And if you look at the longevity scene, if you think about longevity, it's really about strength, VO2 max, and body comp, right? And testosterone plays a role across those. So as longevity goes mainstream even more, testosterone is a foundational item, right? For us and everyone, you got to focus on diet, sleep, stress, exercise. These are non-negotiables at the bottom of that pyramid. But right above that is hormonal care. That's really what is going to make sure your body is functioning properly. Then you can stack on things like peptides and other longevity compounds. But your hormonal base has to be working. If not, then whatever you try to do on top of that is also going to fail. Just like if you try to, only correct your hormones, but not spend any time on lifestyle, you can't outrun a lot of those things. So I think testosterone is going to continue to get that center attention as we move forward, and for much more for broader reasons than what we've seen in the past, right? And I think that holistic understanding is going to come full circle. And what I say about, again, up and to the right, is that's going to bring a lot of this research, a lot of this success stories is going to bring traditional medicine also back into the picture, right? So when primary cares started thinking about testosterone as a normal intervention, just like they came around on GLP-1s. 3 years ago, primary care didn't want to write GLP-1s. Now they do, because patients have largely driven this, but then also, again, the understanding and the role has expanded.
And when you say patients have largely driven this, they're demanding the GLP-1s. But what is the catalyst behind the changing preferences of patients, the changing demands of patients? Is it Huberman? Is it Peter Attia? Is it that people are having health problems that they've never had before out in the real world? Like what is causing the gradual rise from 2020 to 2025, and what might trigger the hockey stick sort of growth that you're sort of expecting in the coming years?
So I think you have folks that are educating out there more and more today than you did, say, a decade ago. But that is meeting patients where they are, right? So again, when you think about how patients feel and some of the frustrations they've had in the system, right? And same thing, like water platforms like HIMSS Unlocking, they're unlocking a lot of that frustration that was in the system, and the lack of access to care, right? That existed before the platform existed, and they unlocked it, right? So I think you have this meeting between better health information and patients, again, feeling the way that they are and saying, okay, we're going to do something about it, right? And I think the other portion that comes into this is the stigma is going away. Once you reduce a stigma, I mean, look, you're actually having much more people in Hollywood come out and say they're using testosterone therapy today. That didn't happen 5 years ago. So that's happening today, right? And as that's happening, it's becoming more and more accepted. So that's when people will, let their guards down, go seek help, and get a therapy that they should have been on anyway. That's why I think this, 2 million men are treated on testosterone therapy today. As I mentioned, there's probably 25 deficient in the country. I see that going to 10 million in the next 5 years, for sure, if not sooner.
You sound pro peptides as well. Is that accurate?
I think peptides do play a role. Absolutely. Personally, and yeah, I mean, I am a fan if used correctly.
Personally, do you use peptides? We've had many guests at this point that have a peptide regimen. Are you open to sharing which?
Right now, I mean, again, and this is kind of
interesting to me as someone who's like not on anything, and I'm hosting this podcast, and we've got biohacking people or longevity experts and CEOs of companies, and they all seem to be on a peptide regimen now. And as a recent guest said, everyone has a Chinese peptide dealer now.
Right.
And
I won't do that.
HIMSS is talking about BPC 157 on earnings calls now. And so I'm curious, CEO of a pharmaceutical company, what are you taking?
Yeah. So, and the reason is, like, health and wellness is at our core, right? So yes, we have a pharmaceutical product, but I firmly say, Marius is a health and wellness company, right? Yeah. So, and again, as I mentioned, those few non-negotiables: diet, sleep, stress, exercise. You got to focus on those. But from a peptide perspective, I guess, again, these go through cycles. BPC is part of my routine, and that's mainly focused for me on some gut health right now. As winter's rolling around, I've actually started a course of thymosin alpha to help with the immune system. But yeah, I've used things like CJC and tesamorelin. These peptides are helpful during certain parts of your year or your training programs. So yeah, and I think there's probably more to be unlocked there.
Cool. Any final words on TRT before we go? What are you most excited about in the next few years, would you say?
I think it's really just this broad-based education on the male and female side. Again, I mark my words, as much as we're focused on the male, that's what KYZATREX is built for. The female side is going to be incredibly interesting and explosive.
I guess, can you say more about that? Like, female testosterone for females, not really something that like I have thought much about. It seems like a mostly male hormone, right?
Right.
So
But it's a male and female hormone.
why are there some females that need it?
So all females need it, period. Right. And all males
Right,
need estrogen.
need supplements or need more than they have naturally.
Need testosterone. Again, not to say they need more, but testosterone as a hormone is needed in the female body. The female body actually has more testosterone circulating than estrogen. Full stop. So that's, again, most people don't know that, actually,
Right.
that there's more testosterone in female bodies than estrogen. So again, as I said, as they go through, perimenopause, postmenopausal, right, these hormone levels do drop off considerably and quite reliably. Testosterone is just coming into the equation, right? You have a number of clinical folks that have done a fair amount of research, so there is data out there. There's a lot of clinical evidence over the last 2 decades that testosterone plays a role, and again, this is becoming more and more vocal. So, and you see it in the patients. Go back to the Times article a couple weeks ago, and you'll talk, patients talk about how this has changed their life. And I think that's a space that we're moving to. This is not so much about, okay, we've run these massive randomized placebo-controlled trials. If, safety can be shown, which is important, I'm not discounting that by any means, then look at what the effects are, right? Again, like I'm talking about my peptide routine, I'm an N of 1, right? You can use a lot of N of 1s to show a directional change, right? So yeah, again, female testosterone, and there's no FDA approved options. So that's why we are pursuing our clinical development program. We very well can be the first FDA approved option, barring good data. And then look at the options. Right now, females generally they'll use male products or compounded products at 1/10 of a dose of the male product. And again, primarily this is creams and pellets. These are far from ideal. So imagine a world where they can actually just take a daily capsule into their routine and have effective and safe levels of testosterone.
Well, Shalin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, telling us a little bit more about the partnership, and then going into the market overall and what we should expect over the next 3 to 5 years. It was really great to chat.
Absolutely. No, pleasure being here, and look forward to everyone watching this space closely.